something no coach has done in the last 25 years. So, as fucked up as people say what you did, I did do something that no other coach has done in the last 25 years for this organization.
You got other guys that won championships in other places that got the boot as well.
I know.
Right?
But that boot that is like
motherfucking Frank Vogel. You got other coaches that's won championships that's been on a shorter leash than him. And he had 5 years, dude. Most dudes had 2 years.
But that's what I said. This adds to the coaching legacy of being fired. It's like you're firing success. And coaches that are just doing what? Listening to you, playing a game.
I did it to Mike Woodson.
Right? I mean, like, how do I, like, how do you keep your job? There's no, like, right now it's saying the more successful you are, you're easier to get cut versus.
We saw how Mike middle of the road. Something who we building. If you're out losing consecutive years, you got a better chance of getting re-signed.
Yeah.
If your team is trending up, you got a better chance of getting an extension than you winning consecutive years in the playoffs and not winning a championship. Like, it's just, that's the nature of it in this NBA for whatever reason.
And it seems like the Knicks went all in this season.
They
re-signing Jalen Brunson, giving OG Anunoby the bag, blockbuster trades for Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns. And we talked about, we had Mero on the show last week, long-time Knicks fan. Yeah, it's improvement. They wouldn't be disappointed if they didn't win the Eastern Conference Final. But that roster also improved from the roster last season. They got booted in the second round by the Pacers.
Well, we wouldn't know because he didn't use them, so. Right.
Yeah, it's just, and for New York, you know, they feel like they should be in the finals right now.
Okay.
That's what it is. And you hear the
should in reality is too. Like, you should after this. Yeah. Like, you felt you was this close for being in the championship. But then there's reality, right? Reality is, okay, the mega teams did get hurt, but this was our time. So if there was any time to get to the chip, this was it. Right? And we were this close and we probably fucked that off. I get that understanding. That, you know, this might not come around again, and we should have been better prepared to capitalize. Okay.
You beat Boston twice in Boston. You're on the verge of going up 3-1 even before Tatum's injury late in the fourth quarter of Game 4 of that series.
Yes.
What you think are taking on the Pacers?
I think the hope. I think the reality of being in the championship was set. Like, once they beat Boston, it was stone, nigga. We in Vegas, right? We getting our tickets in OKC. We doing all of that. I think that's why he got fired. Because nigga, we already done spent some parades and who we was gonna hire, and you just didn't make it, and you're kind of blaming. If I'm the new coach, I don't know if this is a.
Let's see what
am I supposed to do?
Let's see what offense is like. Like, it's.
Yeah. He don't have offense. You gotta adapt.
So the thing is, like, y'all was saying, like, just by calling it this time. And other people have said, like, if you are big and likes to score. You have certain advantages offensively. You shoot the ball well, things like that. But is he a post player? Can you throw the ball from the bucket? Like that. So those are those questions, right? If you can, then it says they're using correct. Right? If you think that he is that, when you need a bucket, you throw the ball down there. There was none of that. There was no adjustment. There was the same thing.
That's true.
It's hard to win, man. It's hard to be successful consistently when just nothing's a hell of a basketball. Take nothing off his plate. Here's a hell of a basketball. He can't average 30 at all. He can't. Like, it's not making anything or anybody around him better, man. Like,
it's how he averages 30.
It's a lot of dribbling and a lot of ball domination when the ball needs to be moving. Like I said, the first 3 quarters, the ball needs to be popping. It's not. He's so ball dominant, man. The other dudes got the rhythm, so every shot, pressure on when they get it, because they just don't know if it's gonna come back, man. It was consistently that. And then when once teams figure that out, like, okay, we're gonna play him this way, then what did Tibbs do? Right?
So, question for the couch: would you have fired Tibbs?
Yes.
you were in that same situation with the Knicks. You told me.
I thought it was rap.
Yeah.
Hey, Law, I knew it was.
We said before Game 5 and 10, coaching for his job, Couch agreed that it was such that they stretched it to 6, get that first home win in Madison Square Garden.
I'm 50-50.
Like
I understand it. I understand the fire and but I'll be up there arguing upon tears. Like these niggas are stupid. Like I'll be saying, hey, they stupid. Look at this play, and I just be running down plays on how stupid some of these guys are. I had a motherfucker post up. I only seen one player do this, and I was like, oh shit. Okay, you're not smart. This is the baseline. Right? Post up like this, right? This nigga dribbling like this. And then wonder why the ball got stolen. Nigga, the defense is this way. They dig in this way. Like, who taught you, like, because you want to go to your right end, then get the fuck on the other side. Like, I can see those shit on the left side, dribbling towards the baseline, thinking about to spin back right. What educated guard is going to allow you?
Trying to set this spin up, nigga. Fuck what you talking about?
The defense, I know what I'm about to think. They thinking the same thing. He trying to set this spin up. Every guard don't dig, and if you don't dig and he get that spin off, nigga, the guard gets subbed out. You stupid motherfucker. He can't even see you. Like when I seen that, I was just sitting there like, yo, this is crazy. But
is it old school though?
Yeah,
right now.
He might be. Listen,
Shit, think about it.
he don't have an offense, right? He's a defensive coach that broke down defensively, right? Lot of movements, right? You got to do a lot of individual fuck your team practice shit, because if you're doing team practice for an hour and a half, right? And y'all out here running regular offense, and then you go in the game and Brunson is the offense now, that means you're wasting an hour and a half of development if this is how y'all play the game. Ooh. So if this is how you play the game, fuck team practice, right? Because all it is just give the shit to Brunson, let Brunson do his job, right? That's what y'all play like. So, OG, we're going to work on your feet, how to move in traffic. Cat, we're going to work on your post-ups and getting in shape. Because I watched YouTube clips of a young Towns. Oh, that nigga was good. What? Oh, that nigga was fast. Oh, yeah, he was out there moving.
Probably the best thing.
Yeah. And what you are now is that's not even true. Your young self will whoop he will run circles around the new you, right? You might have to drop 15, 20 to be back in movement how you was moving before.
Like I always say, you get too comfortable shooting too many threes.
And that's like he was posting up, getting in there, doing dunks. I'm like, hey man, drop some weight. You might need to be on the Luka thing right now. Drop weight down, get back to a little bit faster.
But I can't believe you said you 50-50 after you fired Tibbs after one practice. That's crazy. Remember he came to the Wizards and he was our coach for one day. Put all of us through the practice. He said, man, get this motherfucker out of here. I can't do this shit. I'm not dealing with this shit. See, this motherfucker.
That was the old.
No, you done changed.
That was the old me. I said, listen.
Remember he came in that
No, I remember. No, listen, I know. And I wasn't even playing. But,
The Art of War by Sun Tzu, translated by Lionel Giles, read by Illa Curtis. Introduction. Sun Tzu Wu was a native of the Qi state. His art of war brought him to the notice of Ho Lu, king of Wu. Ho Lu said to him, "I have carefully perused
as heaven and earth. Unending is the flow of rivers and streams. Like the sun and moon, they end but to begin anew. Like the 4 seasons, they pass away to return once more. There are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combinations of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors, blue, yellow, red, white, and black, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever be seen. There are not more than 5 cardinal tastes, sour, acrid, salt, sweet, bitter, yet combinations of them yield more flavors than can ever be tasted. In battle, there are not more than 2 methods of attack, the direct and the indirect, yet these 2 in combination give rise to an endless series of maneuvers. The direct and the indirect lead on to each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle. You never come to an end. Who can exhaust the possibilities of their combination? The onset of troops is like the rush of a torrent which will even roll stones along in its course. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Therefore, the good fighter will be terrible in his onset and prompt in his decision. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to the releasing of a trigger. Amid the turmoil and tumult of battle, there may be seeming disorder, and yet no real disorder at all. Amid confusion and chaos, your array may be without head or tail, yet it will be proof against defeat. Simulated disorder postulates perfect discipline. Simulated fear postulates courage. Simulated weakness postulates strength. Hiding order beneath the cloak of disorder is simply a question of subdivision. Concealing courage under their show of timidity presupposes a fund of latent energy. Masking strength with weakness is to be affected by tactical dispositions. Thus, one who is skillful at keeping the enemy on the move maintains deceitful appearances, according to which the enemy will act. He sacrifices something that the enemy may snatch at it. By holding out baits, he keeps him on the march. Then, with a body of picked men, he lies in wait for him. The clever combatant looks to the effect of combined energy, and does not require too much from individuals. Hence his ability to pick out the right men and utilize combined energy. When he utilizes combined energy, his fighting men become as it were like unto rolling logs or stones, for it is the nature of a log or stone to remain motionless on level ground, and to move when on a slope. If four-cornered, to come to a standstill, but if round-shaped, to go rolling down. Thus the energy developed by good fighting men is as the momentum of a round stone rolled down a mountain thousands of feet in height. So much on the subject of energy. End of Part 5. Part 6. Weak Points and Strong. Sun Tzu said, "Whoever is first in the field and awaits the coming of the enemy will be fresh for the fight. Whoever is second in the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive exhausted." Therefore, the clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed on him. By holding out advantages to him, he can cause the enemy to approach of his own accord, or, by inflicting damage, he can make it impossible for the enemy to draw near. If the enemy is taking his ease, he can harass him. If well supplied with food, he can starve him out. If quietly encamped, he can force him to move. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. March swiftly to places where you are not expected. An army may march great distances without distress if it marches through country where the enemy is not. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. You can ensure the safety of your defense if you only hold positions that cannot be attacked. Hence, the general is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to defend, and he is skillful in defense whose opponent does not know what to attack. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy! Through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. You may advance and be absolutely irresistible if you make for the enemy's weak points. You may retire and be safe from pursuit if your movements are more rapid than those of the enemy. If we wish to fight, the enemy can be forced to an engagement even though he be sheltered behind a high rampart and a deep ditch. All we need do is attack some other place that he will be obliged to relieve. If we do not wish to fight, we can prevent the enemy from engaging us even though the lines of our encampment be merely traced out on the ground. All we need do is throw something odd and unaccountable in his way. By discovering the enemy's dispositions and remaining invisible ourselves, we can keep our forces concentrated while the enemy's must be divided. We can form a single united body while the enemy must split up into fractions. Hence, there will be a whole pitted against separate parts of a whole, which means that we shall be many to the enemy's few. And if we are able thus to attack an inferior force with a superior one, our opponents will be in dire straits. The spot where we intend to fight must not be made known, for then the enemy will have to prepare against a possible attack at several different points. And his forces being thus distributed in many directions, the numbers we shall have to face at any given point will be proportionately few. For should the enemy strengthen his van, he will weaken his rear. Should he strengthen his rear, he will weaken his van. Should he strengthen his left, he will weaken his right. Should he strengthen his right, he will weaken his left. If he sends reinforcements everywhere, he will everywhere be weak. Numerical weakness comes from having to prepare against possible attacks. Numerical strength from compelling our adversary to make these preparations against us. Knowing the place and the time of the coming battle, we may concentrate from the greatest distances in order to fight. But if neither time nor place be known, then the left wing will be impotent to succor the right equally impotent to succor the left, the van unable to relieve the rear, or the rear to support the van. How much more so if the furthest proportions of the army are anything under 100 li apart, and even the nearest are separated by several li. Though according to my estimate the soldiers of Yue exceed our own in number, that shall advantage them nothing in the matter of victory. I say then that victory can be achieved. Though the enemy be stronger in numbers, we may prevent him from fighting. Scheme so as to discover his plans and the likelihood of their success. Rouse him and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him to reveal himself so as to find out his vulnerable spots. Carefully compare the opposing army with your own, so that you may know where strength is superabundant and where it is deficient. In making tactical dispositions, the highest pitch you can attain is to conceal them. Conceal your dispositions, and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brains. How victory may be produced for them out of the enemy's own tactics, that is what the multitude cannot comprehend. All men can see the tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy out of which victory is evolved. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. Military tactics are like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike at what is weak. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, in warfare there are no constant conditions. He who can modify his tactics in relation to his opponent and thereby succeed in winning may be called a heaven-born captain. The 5 elements, water, fire, wood, metal, earth, are not always equally predominant. The 4 seasons make way for each other in turn. There are short days and long. The moon has its periods of waning and waxing. End of Part 6. Part 7. Maneuvering. Sun Tzu said, "In war, the general receives his commands from the sovereign. Having collected an army and concentrated his forces, he must blend and harmonize the different elements thereof before pitching his camp. After that comes tactical maneuvering, than which there is nothing more difficult. The difficulty of tactical maneuvering consists in turning the devious into the direct, and misfortune into gain. Thus, to take a long and circuitous route, after enticing the enemy out of the way, and those starting after him, to contrive to reach the goal before him, shows knowledge of the artifice of deviation. Maneuvering with an army is advantageous, with an undisciplined multitude, most dangerous. If you set a fully equipped army in march in order to snatch an advantage, the chances are that you will be too late. On the other hand, to detach a flying column for the purpose involves the sacrifice of its baggage and stores. Thus, if you order your men to roll up their buff coats and make forced marches without halting day or night, covering double the usual distance at a stretch, doing 100 li in order to wrest an advantage, the leaders of all your 3 divisions will fall into the hands of the enemy. The stronger men will be in front, the jaded ones will fall behind, and on this plan only 1/10 of your army will reach its destination. If you march 50 li in order to outmaneuver the enemy, you will lose the leader of your 1st division, and only half your force will reach the goal. If you march 30 li with the same object, 2/3 of your army will arrive. We may take it then that an army without its baggage train is lost. Without provisions, it is lost. Without bases of supply, it is lost. We cannot enter into alliances until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. We are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country, its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps. We shall be unable to turn natural advantage to account unless we make use of local guides. In war, practice dissimulation and you will succeed. Whether to concentrate or to divide your troops must be decided by circumstances. Let your rapidity be that of the wind, your compactness that of the forest. In raiding and plundering be like fire, in immovability like a mountain. Let your plans be dark, and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. When you plunder a countryside, let the spoil be divided amongst your men. When you capture new territory, cut it up into allotments for the benefit of the soldiery. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. He will conquer who has learnt the artifice of deviation. Such is the art of maneuvering. The Book of Army Management says, "On the field of battle, the spoken word does not carry far enough. Hence the institution of gongs and drums. Nor can ordinary objects be seen clearly enough. Hence the institution of banners and flags. Gongs and drums, banners and flags are means whereby the ears and eyes of the host may be focused on one particular point. The host thus forming a single united body, it is impossible either for the brave to advance alone, or for the cowardly to retreat alone. This is the art of handling large masses of men. In night fighting, then, make much use of signal fires and drums, and in fighting by day, of flags and banners, as a means of influencing the ears and eyes of your army. A whole army may be robbed of its spirit. A commander-in-chief may be robbed of his presence of mind. Now, a soldier's spirit is keenest in the morning. By noonday it has begun to flag, and in the evening his mind is bent only on returning to camp. A clever general, therefore, avoids an army when its spirit is keen, but attacks it when it is sluggish and inclined to return. This is the art of studying moods. Disciplined and calm, to await the appearance of disorder and hubbub amongst the enemy. This is the art of retaining self-possession. To be near the goal, while the enemy is still far from it, to wait at ease while the enemy is toiling and struggling, to be well fed while the enemy is famished. This is the art
what's up,
of
Ruthie? I just saw you.
From
It's funny.
intercepting an enemy whose banners are in perfect
Oh wait,
order.
can you hear what I'm listening
refrain
to?
from attacking an army drawn up in calm and confident array. This is the art of studying circumstances. It is a military axiom not to advance uphill against the enemy, nor to oppose him when he comes downhill. Do not pursue an enemy who simulates flight. Do not attack soldiers whose temper is keen. Do not swallow bait offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with an army that is returning home. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. Such is the art of warfare. End of Part 7. Part 8. Variation in Tactics. Sun Tzu said, "In war, the general receives his commands
It's The
from
Art of
sovereign,
War by
collects his army,
Sun
and
Tzu.
concentrates his forces. When in difficult country, do not encamp. In country where high roads intersect, join hands with your allies. Do not linger in dangerously isolated positions. In hemmed-in situations, you must resort to stratagem. In desperate position, you must fight. There are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested, commands of the sovereign which must not be obeyed." The general who thoroughly understands the advantages that accompany variation of tactics knows how to handle his troops. The general who does not understand these may be well acquainted with the configuration of the country, yet he will not be able to turn his knowledge to practical account. So, the student of war who is unversed in the art of war of varying his plans, even though he be acquainted with the 5 advantages, will fail to make the best use of his men. Hence, in the wise leader's plans, considerations of advantage and of disadvantage will be blended together. If our expectation of advantage be tempered in this way, we may succeed in accomplishing the essential part of our schemes. If, on the other hand, in the midst of difficulties we are always ready to seize an advantage, we may extricate ourselves from misfortune. Reduce the
just sent it
hostile
to you.
chiefs by inflicting damage on them, and make trouble for them, and keep them constantly engaged. Hold out specious allurements, and make them rush to any given point. The art of war teaches us to rely not on the
Ooh,
likelihood
the
of the enemy
scammers,
not
stay
coming,
scamming.
but on our own readiness to receive him, not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect a general. 1. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. 2. Cowardice, which leads to capture. 3. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. 4. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. 5. Over-solicitude for his men, which exposes him to worry and trouble. These are the 5 besetting sins of a general, ruinous to the conduct of war. When an army is overthrown and its leader slain, the cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a subject of meditation. End of Part 9.
Hey Ruthie, when I went to full screen mode, did y'all see it?
Sun Tzu said, "We come now to the question of encamping the army and observing signs of the enemy. Pass quickly over mountains and keep in the neighborhood of valleys. Camp in high places facing the sun. Do not climb heights in order to fight." So much for mountain warfare. After crossing a river, you should get far away from it. When an invading force crosses a river in its onward march, do not advance to meet it in midstream. It will be best to let half the army get across, and then deliver your attack. If you are anxious to fight, you should not go to meet the invader near a river which he has to cross. Moor your craft higher up than the enemy, and facing the sun. Do not move upstream to meet the enemy. So much for river warfare. In crossing salt marshes, your sole concern should be to get over them quickly, without any delay. If forced to fight in a salt marsh, you should have water and grass near you, and get your back to a clump of trees. So much for operations in salt marshes. In dry,
Wait, look, this is
level
if I do
country, take up an easily accessible position with rising ground to your right and on your rear, so that the danger may be in front and safety lie behind. So much for campaigning in flat country. These are the 4 useful branches of military knowledge which enabled the Yellow Emperor to vanquish 4 several sovereigns. All armies prefer high ground to low, and sunny places to dark. If you are careful of your men and camp on hard ground, the army will be free from disease of every
Okay.
kind.
Oh,
this
and when
will
it's in
spell
full
victory.
screen, does it look tight?
When you come to a hill or a bank, occupy the sunny side with the slope on your right rear. Thus you will at once act for the benefit of your soldiers and utilize the natural advantages of the ground. When, in consequence of heavy rains up country, a river which you wish to ford is swollen and flecked with foam, you must wait until it subsides. Country in which there are precipitous cliffs with torrents running between, deep natural hollows, confined places, tangled thickets, quagmires, and crevasses should be left with all possible speed and not approached. While we keep away from such places, we should get the enemy to approach them. While we face them, we should let the enemy have them on his rear. If in the neighborhood of your camp there should be any hilly country, ponds surrounded by aquatic grass, hollow basins filled with reeds, or woods with thick undergrowth, they must be carefully routed out and searched, for these are places where men in ambush or insidious spies are likely to be lurking. When the enemy is close at hand and remains quiet, he is relying on the natural strength of his position. When he keeps aloof and tries to provoke a battle, he is anxious for the other side to advance. If his place of encampment is easy of access, he is tendering a bait. Movement amongst the trees of a forest shows that the enemy is advancing. The appearance of a number of screens in the midst of thick grass means that the enemy wants to make us suspicious. The rising of birds in their flight is the sign of an ambuscade. Startled beasts indicate that a sudden attack is coming. When there is dust rising in a high column, it is the sign of chariots advancing. When the dust is low, but spread over a wide area, it betokens the approach of infantry. When it branches out in different directions, it shows that parties have been sent to collect firewood. A few clouds of dust moving to and fro signify that the army is encamping. Humble words and increased preparations are signs that the enemy is about to advance. Violent language and driving forward as if to the attack are signs that he will retreat. When the light chariots come out first and take up a position on the wings, it is a sign that the enemy is forming for battle. Peace proposals unaccompanied by a sworn covenant indicate a plot. When there is much running about and the soldiers fall into rank, it means that the critical moment has come. When some are seen advancing and some retreating, it is a lure. When the soldiers stand leaning on their spears, they are faint from want of food. If those who are sent to draw water begin by drinking themselves, the army is suffering from thirst. If the enemy sees an advantage to be gained and makes no effort to secure it, the soldiers are exhausted. If birds gather on any spot, it is unoccupied. Clamor by night betokens nervousness. If there is a disturbance in the camp, the general's authority is weak. If the banners and flags are shifted about, sedition is afoot. If the officers are angry, it means that the men are weary. When an army feeds its horses with grain and kills its cattle for food, and when the men do not hang their cooking pots over the campfires, showing that they will not return to their tents, you may know that they are determined to fight to the death. The sight of men whispering together in small knots, or speaking in subdued tones, points to disaffection amongst the rank and file. Too frequent rewards signify that the enemy is at the end of his resources. Too many punishments betray a condition of dire distress. To begin by bluster, but afterwards to take fright at the enemy's numbers, shows a supreme lack of intelligence. When envoys are sent with compliments in their mouths, it is a sign that the enemy wishes for a truce. If the enemy's troops march up angrily and remain facing ours for a long time without either joining battle or taking themselves off again, the situation is one that demands great vigilance and circumspection. If our troops are no more in number than the enemy, that is amply sufficient. It only means that no direct attack can be made. What we can do is simply to concentrate all our available strength, keep a close watch on the enemy, and obtain reinforcements. He who exercises no forethought, but makes light of his opponents, is sure to be captured by them. If soldiers are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive. And, unless submissive, they will be practically useless. If, when the soldiers have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless. Therefore, soldiers must be treated in the first instance with humanity, but kept under control by means of iron discipline. This is a certain road to victory. If in training soldiers commands are habitually enforced, the army will be well disciplined. If not, its discipline will be bad. If a general shows confidence in his men, but always insists on his orders being obeyed, the gain will be mutual. End of Part 9. Part 10. Terrain. Sun Tzu said, we may distinguish 6 kinds of terrain, to wit, 1. Accessible ground, 2. Entangling ground, 3. Temporizing ground, 4. Narrow passes, 5. Precipitous heights, 6. Positions at a great distance from the enemy. Ground which can be freely traversed by both sides is called accessible. With regard to ground of this nature, be before the enemy in occupying the raised and sunny spots, and carefully guard your line of supplies. Then you will be able to fight with advantage. Ground which can be abandoned but is hard to reoccupy is called entangling. From a position of this sort, if the enemy is unprepared, you may sally forth and defeat him. But if the enemy is prepared for your coming, and you fail to defeat him, then, return being impossible, disaster will ensue. When the position is such that neither side will gain by making the first move, it is called temporizing ground. In a position of this sort, even though the enemy should offer us an attractive bait, it will be advisable not to stir forth, but rather to retreat, thus enticing the enemy in his turn. Then, when part of his army has come out, we may deliver our attack with advantage. With regard to narrow passes, if you can occupy them first, let them be strongly garrisoned and await the advent of the enemy. Should the army forestall you in occupying a pass, do not go after him if the pass is fully garrisoned, but only if it is weakly garrisoned. With regard to precipitous heights, if you are beforehand with your adversary, you should occupy the raised and sunny spots, and there wait for him to come up. If the enemy has occupied them before you, do not follow him, but retreat, and try to entice him away. If you are situated at a great distance from the enemy, and the strength of the two armies is equal, it is not easy to provoke a battle, and fighting will be to your disadvantage. These 6 are the principles connected with earth. The general who's attained a responsible post must be careful to study them. Now, an army is exposed to 6 several calamities, not arising from natural causes, but from faults for which the general is responsible. These are 1. Flight, 2. Insubordination, 3. Collapse, 4. Ruin, 5. Disorganization, 6. Rout. Other conditions being equal, if one force is hurled against another 10 times its size, the result will be the flight of the former. When the common soldiers are too strong and their officers too weak, the result is insubordination. When the officers are too strong and the common soldiers too weak, the result is collapse. When the higher officers are angry and insubordinate, and on meeting the enemy give battle on their own account from a feeling of resentment, before the commander-in-chief can tell whether or not he is in a position to fight, the result is ruin. When the general is weak and without authority, when his orders are not clear and distinct, when there are no fixed duties assigned to officers and men, and the ranks are formed in a slovenly, haphazard manner, the result is utter disorganization. When a general, unable to estimate the enemy's strength, allows an inferior force to engage a larger one, or hurls a weak detachment against a powerful one, and neglects to place picked soldiers in the front rank, the result must be rout. These are 6 ways of courting defeat, which must be carefully noted by the general who has attained a responsible post. The natural formation of the country is the soldier's best ally, but a power of estimating the adversary, of controlling the forces of victory, and of shrewdly calculating difficulties, dangers, and distances, constitutes the test of a great general. He who knows these things, and in fighting puts his knowledge into practice, will win his battles. He who knows them not, nor practices them, will surely be defeated. If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight, even though the ruler forbid it. If fighting will not result in victory, then you must not fight, even at the ruler's bidding. The general who advances without coveting fame, and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. Regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look upon them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand by you even unto death.
Hey, stop loss hunting.
If, however, you are indulgent, but unable to make your authority felt, kind-hearted, but unable to enforce your commands, and incapable, moreover, of quelling disorder, then your soldiers must be likened to spoilt children. They are useless for any practical purpose. If we know that our own men are in a condition to attack, but are unaware that the enemy is not open to attack, we have gone only halfway towards victory. If we know that the enemy is open to attack, but are unaware that our own men are not in a condition to attack, we have gone only halfway towards victory. If we know that the enemy is open to attack, and also know that our men are in a condition to attack, but are unaware that the nature of the ground makes fighting impracticable, we have still only gone halfway towards victory. Hence the experienced soldier, once in motion, is never bewildered. Once he has broken camp, he is never at a loss. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, your victory will not stand in doubt. If you know heaven and know earth, you may make your victory complete. End of Part 10. Part 11, The 9 Situations. Sun Tzu said, the art of war recognizes 9 varieties of ground. 1. Dispersive ground. 2. Facile ground. 3. Contentious ground. 4. Open ground. 5. Ground of intersecting highways. 6. Serious ground. 7. Difficult ground. 8. Hemmed-in ground. 9. Desperate ground. When a chieftain is fighting in his own territory, it is dispersive ground. When he has penetrated into hostile territory, but to no great distance, it is facile ground. Ground the possession of which imports great advantage to either side is contentious ground. Ground on which each side has liberty of movement is open ground. Ground which forms the key to 3 contiguous states, so that he who occupies it first has most of the empire at his command, is a ground of intersecting highways. When an army has penetrated into the heart of a hostile country, leaving a number of fortified cities in its rear, it is serious ground. Mountain forests, rugged steeps, marshes, and fens, all country that is hard to traverse, this is difficult ground. Ground which is reached through narrow gorges, and from which we can only retire by tortuous paths, so that a small number of the enemy would suffice to crush a large body of our men. This is hemmed-in ground. Ground on which we can only be saved from destruction by fighting without delay is desperate ground. On dispersive ground, therefore, fight not. On facile ground, halt not. On contentious ground, attack not. On open ground, do not try to block the enemy's way. On the ground of intersecting highways, join hands with your allies. On serious ground, gather and plunder. In difficult ground, keep steadily on the march. On hemmed-in ground, resort to stratagem. On desperate ground, fight. Those who were called skillful leaders of old knew how to drive a wedge between the enemy's front and rear, to prevent cooperation between his large and small divisions, to hinder the good troops from rescuing the bad, the officers from rallying their men. When the enemy's men were united, they managed to keep them in disorder. When it was to their advantage, they made a forward move. When otherwise, they stopped still. If asked how to cope with the great host of the enemy in orderly array, and on the point of marching to the attack, I should say, begin by seizing something which your opponent holds dear. Then he will be amenable to your will. Rapidity is the essence of war. Take advantage of the enemy's unreadiness. Make your way by unexpected routes, and attack unguarded spots. The following are the principles to be observed by an invading force. The further you penetrate into a country, the greater will be the solidarity of your troops, and thus the defenders will not prevail against you. Make forays in fertile country in order to supply your army with food. Carefully study the well-being of your men, and do not overtax them. Concentrate your energy and hoard your strength. Keep your army continually on the move, and devise unfathomable plans. Throw your soldiers into positions whence there is no escape, and they will prefer death to flight. If they will face death, there is nothing they may not achieve. Officers and men alike will put forth their uttermost strength. Soldiers, when in desperate straits, lose the sense of fear. If there is no place of refuge, they will stand firm. If they are in hostile country, they will show a stubborn front. If there is no help for it, they will fight hard. Thus, without waiting to be marshaled, the soldiers will be constantly on the qui-vive. Without waiting to be asked, they will do your will. Without restrictions, they will be faithful. Without giving orders, they can be trusted. Prohibit the taking of omens, and do away with superstitious doubts. Then, until death itself comes, no calamity need be feared. If our soldiers are not overburdened with money, it is not because they have a distaste for riches. If their lives are not unduly long, it is not because they are disinclined to longevity. On the day they are ordered out to battle, your soldiers may weep, those sitting up bedewing their garments, and those lying down, letting the tears run down their cheeks. But let them once be brought to bay, and they will display the courage of a Chu or a Kui. The skillful tactician may be likened to the Shuai Jan. Now, the Shuai Jan is a snake that is found in the Chi'ung Mountains. Strike at its head, and you will be attacked by its tail. Strike at its tail, and you will be attacked by its head. Strike at the middle, and you will be attacked by head and tail both. Asked if an army can be made to imitate the Shuai Jan, I should answer yes. For the men of Wu and the men of Yue are enemies. Yet if they are crossing a river in the same boat and are caught by a storm, they will come to each other's assistance, just as the left hand helps the right. Hence, it is not enough to put one's trust in the tethering of horses and the burying of chariot wheels in the ground. The principle on which to manage an army is to set up one standard of courage, which all must reach. How to make the best of both strong and weak, that is a question involving the proper use of ground. Thus, the skillful general conducts his army just as though he were leading a single man, willy-nilly by the hand. It is the business of a general to be quiet, and thus ensure secrecy, upright and just, and thus maintain order. He must be able to mystify his officers and men by false reports and appearances, and thus keep them in total ignorance. By altering his arrangements and changing his plans, he keeps the enemy without definite knowledge. By shifting his camp and taking circuitous routes, he prevents the enemy from anticipating his purpose. At the critical moment, the leader of an army acts like one who has climbed up a height and then kicks away the ladder behind him. He carries his men deep into hostile territory before he shows his hand. He burns his boats and breaks his cooking pots. Like a shepherd driving a flock of sheep, he drives his men this way and that, and nothing knows whither he is going. To muster his host and bring it into danger, this may be termed the business of the general. The different measures suited to the 9 varieties of ground, the expediency of aggressive or defensive tactics, and the fundamental laws of human nature, these are things that must most certainly be studied. When invading hostile territory, the general principle is that penetrating deeply brings cohesion. Penetrating but a short way means dispersion. When you leave your own country behind and take your army across neighborhood territory, you find yourself on critical ground. When there are means of communication on all 4 sides, the ground is one of intersecting highways. When you penetrate deeply into a country, it is serious ground. When you penetrate but a little way, it is facile ground. When you have the enemy's strongholds on your rear and narrow passes in front, it is hemmed-in ground. When there is no place of refuge at all, it is desperate ground. Therefore, on dispersive ground, I would inspire my men with unity of purpose. On facile ground, I would see that there is close connection between all parts of my army. On contentious ground, I would hurry up my rear. On open ground, I would keep a vigilant eye on my defenses. On ground of intersecting highways, I would consolidate my alliances. On serious ground, I would try to ensure a continuous stream of supplies. On difficult ground, I would keep pushing on along the road. On hemmed-in ground, I would block any way of retreat. On desperate ground, I would proclaim to my soldiers the hopelessness of saving their lives. For it is the soldier's disposition to offer an obstinate resistance when surrounded, to fight hard when he cannot help himself, and to obey promptly when he has fallen into danger. We cannot enter into alliance with neighboring princes until we are acquainted with their designs. We are not fit to lead an army on the march unless we are familiar with the face of the country, its mountains and forests, its pitfalls and precipices, its marshes and swamps. We shall be unable to turn natural advantages to account unless we make use of local guides. To be ignored of any one of the following 4 or 5 principles does not befit a warlike prince. When a warlike prince attacks a powerful state, his generalship shows itself in preventing the concentration of the enemy's forces. He overawes his opponents, and their allies are prevented from joining against him. Hence, he does not strive to ally himself with all and sundry, nor does he foster the power of other states. He carries out his own secret designs, keeping his antagonists in awe. Thus, he is able to capture their cities and overthrow their kingdoms. Bestow rewards without regard to rule, issue orders without regard to previous arrangements, and you will be able to handle a whole army as though you had to do with but a single man. Confront your soldiers with the deed itself. Never let them know your design. When the outlook is bright, bring it before their eyes, but tell them nothing when the situation is gloomy. Place your army in deadly peril, and it will survive. Plunge it into desperate straits, and it will come off in safety. For it is precisely when a force has fallen into harm's way that it is capable of striking a blow for victory. Success in warfare is gained by carefully accommodating ourselves to the enemy's purpose. By persistently hanging on the enemy's flank, we shall succeed in the long run in killing the commander-in-chief. This is called ability to accomplish a thing by sheer cunning. On the day that you take up your command, block the frontier passes, destroy the official tallies, and stop the passage of all emissaries. Be stern in the council chamber so that you may control the situation. If the enemy leaves the door open, you must rush in. Forestall your opponent by seizing what he holds dear, and subtly contrive to time his arrival on the ground. Walk in the path defined by rule, and accommodate yourself to the enemy until you can fight a decisive battle. At first, then, exhibit the coyness of a maiden until the enemy gives you an opening. Afterwards, emulate the rapidity of a running hare, and it will be too late for the enemy to oppose you. End of Part 11. Part 12. The Attack by Fire. Sun Tzu said, "There are 5 ways of attacking with fire. The first is to burn soldiers in their camp. The second is to burn stores. The third is to burn baggage trains. The fourth is to burn arsenals and magazines. The fifth is to hurl drop-in fire amongst the enemy." In order to carry out an attack, we must have means available. The material for raising fire should always be kept in readiness. There is a proper season for making attacks with fire, and special days for starting a conflagration. The proper season is when the weather is very dry. The special days are those when the moon is in the constellations of the sieve, the wall, the wing, or the crossbar, for these 4 are all days of rising wind. In attacking with fire, one should be prepared to meet 5 possible developments. 1. When fire breaks out inside to enemy's camp, respond at once with an attack from without. 2. If there is an outbreak of fire, but the enemy's soldiers remain quiet, bide your time and do not attack. 3. When the force of the flames has reached its height, follow it up with an attack, if that is practicable. If not, stay where you are. 4. If it is possible to make an assault with fire from without, do not wait for it to break out within, but deliver your attack at a favorable moment. 5. When you start a fire, be to windward of it. Do not attack from the leeward. A wind that rises in the daytime lasts long, but a night breeze soon falls. In every army, the 5 developments connected with fire must be known, the movements of the stars calculated, and a watch kept for the proper days. Hence, those who use fire as an aid to the attack show intelligence. Those who use water as an aid to the attack gain an accession of strength. By means of water, an enemy may be intercepted, but not robbed of all his belongings. Unhappy is the fate of one who tries to win his battles and succeed in his attacks without cultivating the spirit of enterprise, for the result is a waste of time and general stagnation. Hence the saying, the enlightened ruler lays his plans well ahead. The good general cultivates his resources. Move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical. No ruler should put troops into the field merely to gratify his own spleen. No general should fight a battle simply out of pique. If it is to your advantage, make a forward move. If not, stay where you are. Anger may in time change to gladness. Vexation may be succeeded by content. But a kingdom that has once been destroyed can never come again into being, nor can the dead ever be brought back to life. Hence the enlightened ruler is heedful, and the good general full of caution. This is the way to keep a country at peace and an army intact. End of Part 12. Part 13. The Use of Spies. Sun Tzu said, "Raising a host of 100,000 men and marching them great distances entails heavy loss on the people and a drain on the resources of the state. The daily expenditure will amount to 1,000 ounces of silver. There will be commotion at home and abroad, and men will drop down exhausted on the highways. As many as 700,000 families will be impeded in their labor. Hostile armies may face each other for years, striving for the victory which is decided in a single day. This being so, to remain in ignorance of the enemy's conditions simply because one grudges the outlay of 100 ounces of silver in honors and emoluments is the height of inhumanity. One who acts thus is no leader of men, no present help to his sovereign, no master of victory. Thus, what enables the wise sovereign and the good general to strike and conquer and achieve things beyond the reach of ordinary men is foreknowledge. Now, this foreknowledge cannot be elicited from spirits. It cannot be obtained inductively from experience, nor by any deductive calculation. Knowledge of the enemy's dispositions can only be obtained from other men. Hence the use of spies, of whom there are 5 classes. 1. Local spies. 2. Inward spies. 3. Converted spies. 4. Doomed spies. 5. Surviving spies. When these 5 kinds of spy are all at work, none can discover the secret system. This is called divine manipulation of the threads. It is the sovereign's most precious faculty. Having local spies means employing the services of the inhabitants of a district. Having inward spies, making use of officials of the enemy. Having converted spies, getting hold of the enemy's spies and using them for our own purposes. Having doomed spies, doing certain things openly for purposes of deception, and allowing our spies to know of them and report them to the enemy. Surviving spies, finally, are those who bring back news from the enemy's camp. Hence it is that which none in the whole army are more intimate relations to be maintained than with spies. None should be more liberally rewarded. In no other business should greater secrecy be preserved. Spies cannot be usefully employed without a certain intuitive sagacity. They cannot be properly managed without benevolence and straightforwardness. Without subtle ingenuity of mind, one cannot make certain of the truth of their reports. Be subtle, and use your spies for every kind of business. If a secret piece of news is divulged by a spy before the time is ripe, he must be put to death together with the man to whom the secret was told. Whether the object be to crush an army, to storm a city, or to assassinate an individual, it is always necessary to begin by finding out the names of the attendants, the aides-de-camp, and doorkeepers and sentries of the general in command. Our spies must be commissioned to ascertain these. The enemy's spies, who have come to spy on us, must be sought out, tempted with bribes, led away, and comfortably housed. Thus they will become converted spies and available for our service. It is through the information brought by the converted spy that we are able to acquire and employ local and inward spies. It is owing to this information again that we can cause the doomed spy to carry false tidings to the enemy. Lastly, it is by this information that the surviving spy can be used on appointed occasions. The end and aim of spying in all its 5 varieties is knowledge of the enemy, and this knowledge can only be derived in the first instance from the converted spy. Hence it is essential that the converted spy be treated with the utmost liberality. Of old, the rise of the Yin dynasty was due to Yi Qi, who had served under the Xia. Likewise, the rise of the Chu dynasty was due to Lu Ya, who had served under the Yin. Hence, it is only the enlightened ruler and the wise general who will use the highest intelligence of the army for purposes of spying, and thereby they achieve great results. Spies are a most important element in water, because on them depends an army's ability to move. End of The Art of War. Recorded in Toronto, Ontario by Moira Fogarty, October 2006. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information and to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org.
Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
The Art of War by Sun Tzu.
The story will continue in a moment.
Cameras aren't allowed in the courtroom, and today is day 15 of the Diddy trial, and we have the transcript from this morning. Let's get straight into it. This video contains commentary and analysis intended for educational and documentary purposes only. All allegations are discussed as part of the ongoing legal proceedings, and all subjects are presumed innocent until proven guilty. So once again, this is coming from Matthew Russell Lee over Inner City Press. Yesterday, sorry guys about the recap of yesterday and the afternoon transcript, dealing with a lot of different things still with family and then also YouTube, but I am going to be dropping those today, even though it's a little bit late, in case you guys want my take on things that happen, but I also will be doing all of today, keeping up with that. So, all right, now, it says U.S. versus Sean Combs, day 15, Garcia with immunity, video fight, then Jane, and yeah. So, courtroom deputy. Marshals, can you bring the defendant out? Oh, I think Mr. Donaldson is in there, the holding cell with Mr. Combs. And Diddy is brought in. The judge, let's start with the compilation video. I got this letter. So this is the letter. I'm not gonna read it, but we'll get clarification. Judge says, is Ms. Garcia competent to testify about this video? Given his position, sorry, not Miss, Mr. Garcia, given his position in the hotel security, AUSA, for those who don't know, is the prosecution. I have not really, I think, asked him about that aspect. We are not using the correct cell phone video, so this could get in under the rules. The way, now this is the defense, Tenny Garagos. The way the video is cut makes it appear that Mr. Combs came right after Ms. Ventura, and she didn't. I'd like to address the timestamps on security videos. They are routinely inaccurate. The defense's concerns could be allayed by inserting breaks between the clips. Since they will be testifying, it's hard for them to be editing the clips at the same time. We don't think it's misleading. The defense can cross-examine on this. Given the defense played the video of Mia's birthday video for Mr. Combs, we want to introduce a recording of his jail calls about organizing social media celebrations of his birthday, which he views as a way to change the narrative. I played that yesterday from the morning transcript. It was a video that Matthew included of the alleged Mia, whose identity is hidden, but people on social media have been finding her. But this video has now gone out, so I did play that. If you want to look at it, then I'm not going to play it again today. There was someone broadcasting Mia's name just outside the courthouse in Foley Square yesterday. We'd ask, and this is, he said, he has a note from the back of the courtroom, Diddy, they're coming after you, those mother effers. Oh, whoa, okay, so someone, while she's in the middle of talking, someone screams, Diddy, they're coming after you, those mother effers. Wow, okay, so today's court is getting spicy already. Court security officers escort that person out. Judge continuing, the video timestamps. How long is it? If 40 minutes, it would be a good 403 argument. This could be an easy fix, but the witness on this will be on the stand in 2 hours. Where does he live? New York? Florida. Bring in the jury. All rise. Jurors, there will be some scheduling modifications, including that on June 11th, we will not start until 1 p.m. Also, June 5th from 11 to 4, and June 20th, the day after Juneteenth, will stop at 1 p.m. Call your next witness. The government calls Eddie Garcia. Where did you work on the day in question? The Intercontinental Hotel. I was told there wasn't an incident involving Sean Combs. Do you see him here? We stipulate, so Steele will be doing the cross. Brian Steele. Let me show you your sign-in sheet for that day. Yes, I signed that. Week ending March 10, 2016. Could you monitor all the cameras? Not all, but more than one at a time. Would you be required to check the monitors? Yes. Do you initially recognize the individual involved in this incident? Not at first, but when I looked closer, yes, it was Mr. Sean Combs. And did you learn who the second individual was? Yes, Miss Cassie Ventura. Why was law enforcement not called? Ms. Ventura did not request it. Did you review the incident report? Yes. There was an attachment that I didn't open on the computer, a video file. Did you receive a call? Yes. From who? Christina Coram, with a New York area code. She asked if I had the video. What did she ask for? The video. She said Mr. Combs had been intoxicated and didn't remember exactly. Objection sustained. Sidebar? They're back. What did you tell Ms. Coram? That she would have to talk to management. Did she reach out again? Yes. I got a call from the lobby that she was there looking for me. What did she ask for? The video. How did you respond? That she had to talk to management or file a subpoena. Did you tell her what you saw on the video? Yes, I told her. Off the record, it's bad. Did you get another call? Yes, from a New York area code. It was Miss Coram. She put someone else on the phone. Who? Mr. Combs. He asked, do you know who I am? What did you say? I said yes. He asked for the video, said he had been intoxicated. I told him I can't give the video. How did he sound? He was talking fast and stuttering. He sounded nervous. Did you email management? Yes. Bring up Gx7R149. What is it? The email I sent. Objection overruled. So the email as shown has Coram's phone number on it, not redacted. It says Combs, aka P. Diddy, that he is a patron and wants to talk to you. Did you get more calls from Ms. Coram? Yes, on my personal number. How did you react? Nervous. Ms. Coram passed the phone to Mr. Combs again. What did he say? That I sounded like a good guy, that he could help, that something like this could ruin him. He wanted the video. He said if it got out, it would ruin his career. I said I didn't have access to the server. He told me he believed I could make it happen. He would take care of me. What did you think he meant? Money for the video. What did you do? Reached out to my supervisor about it. Who was your supervisor? Bill Medrano. He told me he would do it for $50. What did you think that meant? He'd give the video for $50,000. What did you do? Call Christina, who put Mr. Combs on. He called me, Eddie, my angel. Wait, what? Okay, so sorry guys, Matthew is having some issues with his threads, and so I had to go and search to find the continuation of this. He's had to post it in different places. It's all glitching, but this is now, I have hopefully the conversation is succinctly in how it's supposed to be. All right, so we left off with, he calls me Eddie, my angel. Mr. Combs told me I knew you could do it. Let's do it right away. I told Bill Medrano. What'd he do? He went into the server room. Then he handed me a black USB and said, done. The video was in the USB. What did you do? Told Mr. Combs. Where did Mr. Combs want to meet? West LA. He said, let's get it done. He wanted the video as soon as possible. I told Bill Medrano. He told me to tell the others I was on an errand for him. GX8A104. What hours did you list? 10 through 1800. Where was the meeting point? A big high-rise building. I called the number and someone came, and he said he was Mr. Combs' bodyguard. How did he look? Older African American, heavy set, 6'3" to 6'5". What did he say? That he kind of came up with Mr. Combs, that he was a good guy. I was doing a good thing. Upstairs? Mr. Combs was smiling, called me Eddie, my angel. My voice was cracking, so I said I was coming down with something. Mr. Combs told Christina to get me some of the tea that he liked. Then he asked, do you have it? I said yes, and handed it to him. What'd he do? He left, came back. He asked if it was the only copy. And you said, I believe so. Mr. Combs said it had to be the only copy, nothing in the cloud. I called Mr. Medrano, and he said it was the only copy. He took it off the server. What else did you say? That if Cassie filed a complaint, I can get in trouble. Mr. Combs said, "Don't worry, Cassie wanted it gone too." He called her on FaceTime and showed me. She was in a hoodie, but I recognized her. What did you say to Miss Ventura? What did Miss Ventura say? That she had a movie coming out and wanted this to not come out. He wanted my ID and that of Mr. Medrano and the responding officer, Mr. Flores. But he is a very straight guy and probably wouldn't do it. I told Bill Medrano. What did Mr. Medrano say? We get Henry Elias, the other responding officer. When Mr. Combs saw the IDs, he looked at Henry's and said, yeah, that's him. Then he brought out the NDAs that I wouldn't speak about it. GXC 106. Do you recognize this? It states I have provided the only copy of the video. Did you read it? No, I was nervous. Were you given a copy? No. And the NDA, what were the liquidated damages? $1 million. How much were you making? $10.50 an hour. Then what? Mr. Combs put cash through the money counter. There were stacks of 10,000 at a time. The machine displayed at the end $100,000. Why the additional $50,000? For me, and what he thought was for Israel Flores. How did Mr. Combs give you the $100,000? In a brown paper bag. Was the bodyguard there? Yes. And Miss Corm, was she present? I would say at some point, I think yet. I would say at some point yet, I think it's yes. Sometimes there's typos and things. I stood up, signifying that I'd be leaving. Mr. Combs escorted me to my car. He asked me how I'd be spending it. He said not to make any big purchases. Mr. Steele, if you're objecting, speak into the microphone. That's sustained. Disregard the last part of that. What did you do? Called Bill Medrano and gave him $50,000. How much to Mr. Elias? $20,000. What did you do with your $30,000? Bought a used car with cash. Did you hear from Mr. Combs again? Yes. He called me and told me Happy Easter if I ever needed anything. And did you reach out to him later? A few years later via Instagram, asking if there was work in LA. I never heard back. Sidebar, they're back. Anything further, Ms. Steiner? Yes. Mr. Flores, did you see this video again? Yes, on a news outlet. Also, Mr. Flores messaged me a screenshot. Did you keep these messages? No, I wanted nothing to do with it. Were you contacted by law enforcement? Yes. Did you want to tell the truth? No, I wanted nothing to do with it. Did you get your own lawyer and then told the truth? Yes. No further questions. Mr. Steele? So now he's being cross-examined by the defense. Sir, you were in the condominium unit with Mr. Combs and others and received double what your boss was requesting. Fair? Yes. You told your boss because you are honest, right? Yes. You asked Mr. Combs for work? Yes. Let me show you the NDA. This part says exclusions, right? Under NDA, you can't speak, is my understanding. It says nothing prohibits truthful statements in a legal proceeding. I see that. You weren't law enforcement? No. I have nothing further. Redirect. NDA, paragraph 4. Can you read it after however? Notify company to allow company to prevent disclosure. So you have to notify them first? Yes. Objection overruled. Nothing further. Then break. And I think there may be a little bit more. Because it was things were messing up. Okay, so here we are back. I just want to make sure I have everything in order. All right. Let's bring our jury back out. All rise. I'm going to enter a stipulation into evidence. During a search at Miami Airport, law enforcement seized 2 cell phones from Christina Quorum's person. Published for the jury, it says 24 contacts, including Eddie My Angel and his phone number, and Eddie My Angel friend Intercontinental. There was also a photo of the IDs on the device. We are also entering into evidence records from Signature Bank. Any objection? No. With that, the government calls Derek Ferguson. How do you know Mr. Combs? Worked for him 1998 to 2017. What was your role? CFO. Ooh, the CFO's here, guys. How were your bonuses determined? Company results and my performance. Were you responsible for managing Mr. Combs' personal finances? Yes, at time during my tenure. Who was your supervisor? Sometimes to Mr. Combs himself. How often did you interact with Mr. Combs? A couple of times a week. Later, he became more of a chairman. How did you communicate with him? Back then, pagers. Who is this? And they show a photo of Uncle Paul. And these individuals? Roger Bonds and D-Rock. They were security. Was Mr. Combs the sole owner? Yes, 100% of Bad Boy Productions and Films. What was his role? Creative and marketing. Did some ventures have partners? Bad Boy Records with Arista, also with Warner. Sean John Clothing had a partner. What were the profits? Very profitable. How was Mr. Combs paid? Sometimes salary, sometimes distributions from the companies. What is a distribution? If solely owned or passed through like S-Corp, the owner determines the drawdown. Did each have a bank account? Yes. Could you sign on the accounts? Yes. Which banks did the Combs companies use? Citibank, HSBC, and Signature Bank. What is this one? Janice Combs Music Inc. It furnished his name and likeness. Mr. Ferguson, are these your initials in section 4? Yes, it was 9/29/2009. Is this also a business checking account? Yes. And this one? With Diageo, about Ciroc. How was this account funded? Inflows. What about credit cards? Primarily American Express expense reimbursements. Did Mr. Combs have an Amex? Yes. Did he use it for personal as well as professional? Yes. And the companies paid? Yes. How was outgoing cash handled? We had a petty cash account and cash advances. For example, for those traveling who didn't have American Express cards. When Mr. Combs was paid in cash, how did it work? We'd match it if it was a contract. Were you aware of Mr. Combs' security staff carrying cash for him? I was not aware of that. And when you were responsible for his personal finances, what did you do? Budget for the year. Properties? Inflows and outflows. What properties did he own? The Hamptons, New York, Miami, they were held in LLCs for anonymity and liability reduction and tax benefits. Did you oversee other personal accounts of Mr. Combs? Yes. Were you aware of him supporting other people? Yes, from his personal earnings. Your Honor, this might be a good place for us to take our break. How much more with this witness? 20 minutes, we think, and Jane starting late tomorrow. We expect 2 days for her cross-examination. Only Mr. Ferguson today? Yes. And if Mr. Agnifalo's cross goes long, may we stay late? Okay. Break. All right, so they're on break now. I will be bringing you the second part of that later today once they end for the day. Make sure you guys are checking that out on my channel. But also, as you know, I have been getting censored on YouTube. So I am posting everything on my Patreon. The link is below in the description box. We are trying to get it fixed, but everything I upload, it just suddenly just goes, it gets restricted, it gets censored. Now, I tried yesterday live streaming it. I'm gonna see if I can do that again today if this happens once more. So if this is being live streamed and it seemed kind of weird, just understand I had to edit the video, put it together, and then I'm streaming it live because it seems to be the only way that it doesn't get censored. But if you want to get this video first, it will be over there. All of my videos, I'll be putting on my Patreon. Again, the link is below if you want to support me over there. Until later, I will see you soon.
All right, the FBI is now re-examining high-interest cases that went unsolved in the Biden era. That includes the 2021 D.C. pipe bombings, the 2022 leak of the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, and the cocaine that was found in the White House in 2023.
Here to discuss this and more is FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino. Dan, great to see you again.
Yeah, welcome back, Scott.
Absolutely.
To see you in person.
So many good memories. Great to see all of you.
First off, before we get into specifics, what did you think the job was going to be like? What is it like?
You know, the biggest lifestyle change for me has been family-wise. I mean, we already went through this with my time in the Secret Service. But, you know, when the president called and asked if I would take the job, you know, you can't tell your audience for years, go out and do stuff, talk is cheap. And then when the opportunity comes to do stuff, but I didn't mean me, you know, I meant you. It's kind of you're a fraud. I mean, you don't sound like a fraud, you are one. So it was a lot. It's been tough on the family. People ask me all the time, you know, do you like it? I say, no, I don't. But I didn't, the president didn't ask me to do this to like it. You know, nobody likes going into an organization like that and having to change things and make big, bold changes. But, you know, I was at one of our facilities yesterday down in Winchester, and a woman who worked there, very nice, said, you know, I used to watch your show. I miss you. I said, you know, I miss me too. You know, part of you, part of you dies a little bit when you see all this stuff from behind the scenes.
You're doing this for country, so we appreciate that and we thank you. And we're excited to find out, to roll back the curtain and find out what's deep in the FBI. We have so many questions about those 3 cases we just mentioned. Y'all are doing a deep dive into this. What's the latest on those investigations?
So the moment Cash and I swore in, we realized that the first thing we had to do is rebuild public trust. This is your FBI. It's not mine. I tell the employees every day, you don't own it, you don't own it, I don't own it. It's like being the center fielder for the Yankees. That'll live with you forever, but you don't own the Yankees. It's a proud franchise. The place has taken a reputational hit. There is zero question about it. There were a lot of bad actors. One of them still out there causing us all kinds of trouble. So we had to fix it and rebuild public trust. One of the ways to do it is these cases of significant public interest that matter. You know, we had 2 pipe bombs planted on January 6th. I mean, we were told by partisan actors out there this was the insurrection, the world was going to fall apart, and no one seemed to show any interest in this case. The second we got in, I put a team on it, and I said, I want answers on this. And I'm pretty confident that we're closing in on some suspects. The reason, by the way, I use social media with these cases, I'm trying to communicate on social media, is nothing's by accident, guys. I do nothing by accident. Every time I put a tweet on it, we get tips. We got a fascinating tip on one of these cases, one of the 3. I don't want to say which one, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to close out one of them hopefully shortly. And in the cocaine in the White House, you know, I saw someone on social media, which is fine. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. We work for you, but said, I don't care about the case. Yeah, I do. I was a Secret Service agent. A potentially hazardous material made its way into the White House. Nobody seems to know how it got there, and nobody seemed to investigate it fully. Like, you know, what planet do we live on where that's not of public interest?
So you're faced with this interesting thing. I've known you since I was a kid, and I know your instinct is to swing back. But you promised that you weren't going to do that. You promised that you were going to get rid of the partisanship and you were going to go back to being a law enforcement officer. You went in there and there were some cases that were closed or still open that a lot of the public felt a little sketchy about. The first assassination attempt against President Donald Trump. It's like, is he really the guy? What happened with Epstein? Can you say with confidence, as a lot of people, you used to be their guy when it comes to podcasts, appearing on Fox News, but now as a law enforcement officer, can you say we have all the information?
Well, I'm never going to say we have all of it, and people ask me all the time, are these cases closed? And whether they're closed administratively is irrelevant. If new tips come in, we're absolutely going to follow them, and that's why I always put out, if you have additional information, please let us know. Those 2 cases obviously are of significant public interest. I'm just telling you what we see in the file. I just want to be crystal clear on this. I am not asking anyone to believe me. I'm telling you what's there and what isn't.
Right.
There is nothing in the file at this point on the Epstein case, and there's going to be a disclosure on this coming shortly. We are working through there is video. That is something the public does not.
There's video of him killing himself.
No, not the actual act, but the entire MCC Bay, it was only one camera. There's video that when you look at the video, and we will release, that's what's taken a while on this, we are working on cleaning it up to make sure you have an enhanced, and we're going to give the original so you don't think there were any shenanigans. You're going to see there's no one there but him. Right. There's just nobody there. So I say to people all the time, if you have a tip, let us know. But there's no DNA, there's no audio, there's no fingerprints, there's no suspects, there's no accomplices, there's no tips, there is nothing. If you have it, I'm happy to see it. There's video clear as day. He's the only person in there and the only person coming out. You can see it.
So there's 3 cases that you're looking at: the 2 DC pipe bombings, the Supreme Court leak on the Dobbs decision, and the cocaine in the White House. You say one of them, within a day or two, we're gonna have a major break?
Well, we got a good tip this morning. We're going to run it out. We're not going to be able to make that public, obviously, right away, because we have to make sure, and we have to go all the proper steps. What I don't want to do ever, and I've said this before, it's not an excuse. I can't say to the public enough. I put it in my tweets all the time. I'm not asking you to trust me. Nothing drives me crazy when people go, they're asking us to trust the plan. I am absolutely not. Read my tweets. I don't want you to trust me. I don't. I'd be nice.
You have evidence.
All I care about is results.
So let's talk about what the president wants. He clearly wants a result. When he told Brett Baer on the assassination attempt, he's got questions on the first one. Watch.
There's a lot of frustration that we still don't know about that shooter in Butler, and we don't know about his communications. Will we get transparency?
I thought it was strange. The one guy had 18 cell phones. Okay, I have a lot of cell phones, but I have like 2. I call that a lot. And I think I probably make more calls than him. They live outside of Butler, in a little place. Where did they get this lawyer that would represent IBM and would represent ExxonMobil?
You're the president. Can't you find out?
Secret Service. They tell me it's fine. But it's a little hard to believe, to be honest with you, okay? It's a little bit hard to believe as I get that throbbing feeling.
So then the question is that a lot of people have wondered is, did this kid have the help? He could not have pulled it off by himself. Was there a foreign actor? Did someone provide him with the weapons? Was there chatter online?
Well, let's be clear. There are 2 separate parallel tracks here. Foreign actors targeting people in the United States. And it's not just the president, it's others. That is a very real track. The question is, do they intersect? The case file now, which, by the way, we are going to make another public release on this coming up. We're just kind of finishing up the product now to make sure it's tight and put together. You're going to see a lot of what you've heard about online does not exist in the case file. I'm not telling you information may not surface later. We do the PDB, the President's Daily Brief. We get the same brief, me and Cash, every morning. We have warned people out, telling them if there's something there we want to find. They have shaken every tree on this.
Even you talk to his classmates, you talk to his family, you talk to everyone. They burned the body, cremated, and they cleaned the whole house out.
Yeah, and here's the thing. There are, like with the Epstein case, for example, we have a number of significantly odd abnormalities that would make a normal person go, huh? What? Mm-hmm. If Lawrence is near his bank at 4 o'clock and the bank gets robbed, but we know Lawrence reported to work afterwards and has an alibi, the fact that the bank was robbed, it's a fact that Lawrence was there, but it's not evidence that Lawrence committed the crime. Things, really, really bad things happened in this case, but when you see the report we're going to release, you'll see that not everything you've been told is true. But the president is not wrong at all. I mean, he was shot in the head. Yeah. He was shot in the head, got up and screaming, fight, fight. Of course he's going to want answers, but that's our responsibility. And nothing's ever closed, though. If new evidence surfaces, we'll be sure to get it out.
There were just things that were strange. The slope roof thing, the guy was on his bicycle roaming around, never caught, never seen. Let's talk about something that's been in the news this morning, and that is Kash Patel talking about how when James Comey was on the beach and he posted that social media 8647, he claims that he just happened to walk up along the beach and they saw the shells, he and his wife, and he put it on social media, says he thought it was innocent. He was the director of the FBI, but thought it was innocent. He knows what 86 means. Then Kash Patel said, now we have all these copycats, and now y'all are having to pull resources from all these serious crimes, terrorists, gang-related individuals, drug traffickers, and people who are abusing children. You're pulling them off to go research these copycats because we can't afford another assassination attempt.
I got to tell you, of all the things that have surprised me in the close to now 3 months I've been here is the depravity of Jim Comey. This man is a disgrace to the badge, the FBI, and the country. What he's doing right now, one, going out and taking shots at Cash. Cash doesn't belong. Cash was the chief of staff at the Department. Cash is a patriot. Cash has served in numerous high-level roles, taking personal shots while you're on the beach imply